On this episode of Law Weekly, we bring you highlights from the second annual conference of the Nigerian Bar Association Women's Forum. Also showing on the program, the body of benchers expresses concern about the state of affairs of the nation's legal profession as the new chairman, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Wole Oladipekun, calls for urgent sanitization of the system. The state of affairs of legal education also comes under scrutiny at the 2022 Legal Summit of the Nigerian Bar Association and the Afebabalola University with the theme Reimagining Legal Education in Nigeria, plus our weekly recap of the top trending legal stories. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Shola Shuyeli. The Nigerian Bar Association's Women Forum has held its second annual conference in Lagos in commemoration of the International Women's Day 2022. It was a hybrid event which also drew a lot of online participants. It had the theme, The Invisible Hand of Gender Bias, Championing Collective Change. The chairperson of the forum, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Professor Oluyemisi Gbangbose, speaks to the media on why the women chose this theme for the conference.
It is something that is not seen, but we feel it. And what we are saying at this conference is that this invisible hand that is projecting gender bias must stop. What makes somebody go to court and you are asking the person, you announce yourself as Missy, you announce yourself as Nike, and the judge is asking you, are you Mrs. or Miss? But the man will announce himself as Aki. And the judge is not asking, are you married or not? So those are the invisible hands of gender bias that we're talking about. And what we are saying is that we should be treated as who we are.
Professor Gbangbose re-echoed these comments in a welcome address to this gathering, made up mostly of female lawyers and their invited guests.
Generally and traditionally, boys are preferred to girls. The girls are brought up to do household chores and serve even her younger brothers. She's expected to play with toys, dolls, while the boys play with gun toys. She's expected to behave better, to marry earlier. She's sometimes denied education, as it is termed a waste of money. She's termed not good enough to be a leader, nor to assume great responsibilities. She's seen as the weaker vessel and refused her share of her parents' inheritance. All these can be classified under invisible hands of gender bias.
Who we are today results from all the women who have come before us, worked tirelessly to pave this way, and fought alongside other women to ensure we experience this level of freedom and power that we now have. I hope that the stories we share here today will remind us that we are not just an association fighting for change, but a powerful group of sisters from various parts of the country, aligned with the same mission to be the mouthpiece for women in Nigeria.
So we have to find a way to make sure that in any place that we are, we support ourselves. I think that's the first thing. And the one thing that we as individuals have 100% control over is how I support the next person, how I support other women. You forget about what the institution is doing, what society is doing, but how can you as an individual help other women? Because once we start to do that and we get more women in place, more women showing what they can do, then it's not necessarily people saying, oh, can a woman do it? It's just, this is the best person for the job, irrespective of gender.
6 plenary sessions bordering on contemporary issues affecting mostly female lawyers have been lined up for the first day of this conference. They include issues of bias, leadership, bullying and sexual harassment, among others. The first plenary dwelt on hidden biases in courtroom dynamics, gender and the judiciary. The panelists gave their different perspectives on the issue.
For judges, we don't see ourselves male or female. The rating of your performance is not based on whether you're a man or woman. Because you have peculiar issues like marriage, bringing up children, you need to work a little bit harder so that there is no judicial stereotyping. So I would say in courts, what I notice amongst lawyers who appear before me, and it's becoming more worrisome, is that the young ladies are being used, I don't know whether by their male principals, to come to court to, I have just been asked to take a date. I always feel that's very demeaning on female lawyers, you know. So they come to court as if they've not been called to the bar. My principal told me to come and take a date. The other one I noticed that's a little bit irritating is where a male lawyer comes in with 3 beautiful ladies, with me appearing at this and this, you know, and that continues for years. And then one day I ask, can't you allow her to come to court alone? Because it's only by doing that you will gain experience, not by following a lawyer to court. So I keep on saying that, and maybe that gives the men some confidence in allowing their female lawyers to come to court.
Like we all know, I became the General Secretary first after 38 years. When I wanted to run for this office, I met some people. You know what they told me? He said it's not a woman's office. Can you believe that? I said, please tell me which one is the woman's office. He said, the office of the treasurer. I say, for real? I've been the treasurer, so I can't hold that office again. I have to move up. They said, you know, it's very tedious. It's very hard. You will not be able to cope. Oh, a lot of work. The file is this high. What makes you different from me because you're a man? Nah. As a woman, we need to assert ourselves. We need to be focused. When they told me that, they thought maybe I would just go and sleep. I said, no. I said, for this office, by God's grace, I'm going to get it. I ran against 4 men. 1 dropped on the way, remaining 3. And we went into the race. I did the little I could. And thank you for all of you, the women that supported me. And thank you to all the male champions that supported me. We went into the race. What happened? Your dear sister came out with 50.2%. And the 3 gentlemen shared 49.8%. So what I'm trying to tell us, despite the bias, despite the stereotype, once you are focused, once you are prepared, once you are ready, you can get it.
Absolutely. You see, without being immodest, we all know how hard it is to become SAN. In fact, when you hear the stories of making SAN, even for men, you will be discouraged. But from the day I was called to the bar, my ambition was to be SAN. I went into the chambers of H.A. Ladner SAN because I knew I needed to learn the ropes towards becoming SAN. So I followed my boss, I paid my dues, and when it was time to become SAN, I didn't want to hear the stories of those people who applied 15 times. That wasn't going to be my own. I was focused. You know what I did? Possibility. I went around asking people who were SAN how they became. When I finished asking those people, I wanted to be a first applicant SAN. Because I know it's very frustrating when you apply for SAN. This year, you don't get it. It's another cycle. You keep going and going until you are frustrated. I didn't want to be part of that. The next question I asked was, has a woman ever made it for the first time? And they said, yes, only one. I said, oh, so it's possible. One of the SANs said to me, for the next 3 years, no brief, no money coming in, you are writing briefs, you're writing pro bono briefs, you're going to the prisons and everything. So I took that away. Cut the long story short, I made SAN on first application. So the biases are there. If you allow it to affect you, it will affect you.
I would say that the main gender bias that one faces is the assumption that once one woman has done X, then all women are going to do X. And then it changes. When I finished my youth service, I applied to join GOK Ajayi and Company. And he had just finished, or he had just been left by a very senior lawyer, Chief Mary Bassi, who many of you may know. But she had resigned and said that she needed more time for herself. And so his attitude when another woman was coming was that women can't really stand the pressure. So in other words, her personal experience now became the epitome and the template for all women. Of course, by the time I was leaving 12 years later, Chief Ajayi was sort of looking to see, can he get another woman, you know. And that's the thing that I want to say is that, as Justice Harriman said, it's your performance that will define you.
I think even if you look at the structure of the courtroom, we'll discover that as female lawyers, the structure did not put in special consideration to our peculiarity. I had the experience in 2014. My last born was 2 months old, and I was supposed to have a hearing before a court, and I'll be leading witnesses. So I went to court. I woke up. I usually pick my nanny, then we'll go to court together. She'll be somewhere with my child. But unfortunately, that morning I got to her house, and I was told she was very sick. I could see that, and I had no option then because I was already running late. So I had no option than to go to that court with that child. When I got there, my case was the first on the court list. And that case was adjourned at my instance in the previous hearing, like twice. So I don't want to take adjournment again. And there was nobody around that I could give my child. And I decided to back the baby. And I entered the court with the baby.
Yeah.
Now, when I stood up to announce my appearance, thank God it was a female judge. So when I announced my appearance, she looked like, what is it on your chest? And I was like, oh, sorry. I said, no, Rashida, just drop your hand, let me see it. I said, I'm sorry, my lord. There's nobody I could keep my son with. And she said that she's going to stand down the matter for some minutes. So she did that. She has a court clerk, a female court clerk, and the one on the desk, I think, the bailiff or so. So what she did was she ordered that female court clerk to take the child from me and go to anywhere where I will not hear the child cry. So we continued. And that was why I took 3 witnesses that day. From that point, I said to myself, I'm going to advocate that every court should think of having a crèche within the court premises. Because you can't, these are major things. These are major issues that have hindered the success of women in the legal profession, particularly in private practice.
Let me come to you, Cheryl.
The second
Cheryl,
plenary had the sub-theme, Rising to the Occasion, Leadership from the Eyes of a Contemporary Woman. The next plenary discussed advancing society, the National Assembly as a friend or foe, the road less traveled. Bullying and sexual harassment in the legal profession is the focus of this 4th plenary session, which drew incisive contributions from panelists and participants here. The last two sessions were on shattering stereotypes, a case for negotiating the corporate ladder, and justifying diversity should quotas be used to achieve legal parity. Participants described the content as rich and the discussions as far-reaching enough to birth collective change in the areas necessary to deal with the invisible ends of gender bias. Welcome back. Away from that event, the body of benchers says it's concerned about the state of affairs of the legal profession. These concerns were raised at a ceremony held on Thursday, the 31st of March, to signal a change of guard of the body. Former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Wole Oladipekun, who was the immediate vice chairman of the body, took over from the immediate past chairman, retired Justice Bode Rhodes-Vival, to become the 50th chairman of the body of benchers. In his speech afterwards, he noted that the legal profession requires urgent sanitization to enable it to retain its noble status.
There is the need. I'm not trying to preempt myself. For us to sanitize the profession in Nigeria today, I will not, at this stage, come out to say this is my agenda. I will present my agenda to the body at the first meeting that I will chair, and that will be in July or so. But about the legal profession, we have to do something about it. And what we have to do about the legal profession in Nigeria today is very urgent. Law is the life of every nation. Whenever law breaks down, whenever there is no law, whenever there is no order, we have an invitation to anarchy.
And from that event, we move on to Ekiti State, where stakeholders in the legal profession gathered to discuss the state of legal education in the country. They identified an obsolete curriculum as one of the biggest challenges confronting the development of legal education in Nigeria.
The 2022 edition of the Nigeria Bar Association's Legal Education Summit, holding in Ekiti State, is hosted by legal icon, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Chief Afe Babalola. It drew different stakeholders, including lecturers, students of law, senior lawyers, and others. The NBA President, Olumide Akpata, set the tone for the discussion, highlighting concerns around the dwindling number of competent, confident, and up-to-date legal professionals.
The theme of the summit, Reimagining Legal Education in Nigeria, in my view, speaks to a national emergency in the context of the future of legal education in Nigeria. Over 5 decades after the Unsworth Committee report, which was the forerunner to the Legal Education Act of 1962 and the Legal Practitioners Act of 1963, which laid the legislative framework for legal education in Nigeria, it goes without saying that there is a need to review and overhaul the current model in order to bring it in tune with 21st century realities, hence this summit. As I have said at various fora, the establishment of a system that produces knowledgeable, competent, and ethically conscious lawyers should be a matter of serious interest to all lawyers, because today's student is tomorrow's lawyer and would constitute the workforce for the future, and for our practices to be sustainable, compliant, and competitive, we need a well-educated and skilled workforce in the legal profession. Rather than continuing to complain about the quality of lawyers, we at the NBA decided to do something about the situation, hence the convocation of this summit.
The host, who doubles as keynote speaker, spoke among other things about the appointment of incompetent persons as judges and the threat it poses.
Lawyers need to go on exercises. All of them were basically based in Lagos. They will go on exercises. Ekiti, so month. East, so month, and so on. They were going around the whole place for cases. And we used to line up to see these great lawyers, all of them driving in beautiful limousines, and with their bib and so on and so forth. Law, it was a duty to behold. We knew and we believed that only lawyers were rich people because they were the only people riding the best cars. That was an attraction to me after bagging my BS economics. But can we say today that lawyers are that respected thing? At that time, for instance, judges were hardly seen in public. They were a replica of God on earth. We thought that they were, of course, here are people who had the right to sentence someone to death and his judgment to be carried out. That was what law was at that time.
The Senior Advocate of Nigeria also throws his weight behind a single central law school with adequate infrastructure. Other stakeholders push for true independence and the development of the bar and bench.
Let's now bring you a quick recap of some of the top legal stories in the news.
We begin with a report that the Court of Appeal sitting in Enugu has upheld the February 28 decision of the State High Court Abakaleke bordering on the defection of Governor Dave Umahi and his deputy Kelechi Igwe from the People's Democratic Party PDP to the All Progressives Congress. In a 57-page judgment read by Justice Olubunmi Oyewole, the court held that the appeal lacked merit and that the cases cited are totally irrelevant to the matter brought before it. The court further pointed out that removal of elected officials in this case lies in the hands of the legislature and must be in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The court specifically cited Section 308 of the Constitution and pointed out that no legal action can be taken against a sitting president, vice president, governor, and his deputy. The court therefore dismissed the appeal and awarded a 200,000 naira fine in favor of the defendant. In Abuja, the Federal High Court has discharged and acquitted a former group managing director of the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, Mr. Andrew Yakubu, of money laundering charges. Mr. Yakubu was facing an alleged $9.8 million money laundering charge. In his judgment, Justice Mohammed held that the prosecution, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), failed to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt to result in the conviction of the former NNPC boss. The court also held that the EFCC ought to have investigated Mr. Yakubu's claims that the monetary gifts he claimed to have received came from his friends. Unfortunately, the prosecution did not do that. The court therefore dismissed the EFCC's argument that the funds were proceeds of crime, having not passed them through a financial institution. Justice Mohammed also ordered the refund of the money said to be lodged in the coffers of the CBN. Away from money laundering allegations, Justice Emeka Nwite of the same Federal High Court, Abuja, has ordered that the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Abba Kyari, and his co-defendants be remanded at the Kuje Correctional Center until the next adjourned date of April the 28th. At the last sitting of the court, the prosecuting lawyer, Joseph Sunday, had argued that Abba Kyari was a flight risk owing to his involvement in allegations of money laundering in the United States, where an extradition application is pending in court. He added that the second applicant, who is an assistant superintendent of police, is also under investigation for money laundering and may interfere with evidence. Justice Emeka Nwite agreed with the prosecution that there was sufficient evidence before the court to warrant the refusal of bail. The court therefore ordered the transfer of Abba Kyari and the 4 other defendants, who are police officers, to the Kuje Correctional Center, while the 2 defendants that pleaded guilty to the offense, who are civilians, were transferred to the Suleja Correctional Center. And we round off in Lagos with the report that a retired judge of the State High Court, Justice Babajide Kande Johnson, has filed a suit before the National Industrial Court in Lagos to demand his pension, severance, gratuity, and other entitlements from the state government a year after his retirement. He is also seeking an order directing the state governor to calculate his pension based on the provisions of Section 291, subsection 2 and subsection 3A of the 1999 Constitution, as well as Section 2 of the Pensions Rights of Judges Act, and to pay him the sum of 21,104,551 naira and 6 kobo, as well as 10 million naira as general damages for failure to pay his pension and gratuity in accordance with the law. In documents put before the court, the state governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, asked the judge to strike out his name from the suit for non-disclosure of a cause of action against him.
That's the show. Thank you for watching. Please catch up with past episodes on our YouTube page. I'm Shola Sheyeli. See you next week.